Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2020 College of Arts and Sciences Virtual Hall of Fame Ceremony, honoring Ouita Michel, the Honorable Winn Williams, George Wright, Bing Zhang, Patty Cooper, and Ron Eller. And now your host, College of Arts and Sciences Interim Dean, Christian Brady.
Hello? Anyone there? Here we go. We got a show. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us tonight for our virtual 2020 Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I can't tell you how honored I am to be here hosting this wonderful event, where we celebrate some of the brightest stars in the College of Arts and Sciences. We have a stellar lineup of worthy inductees whose contributions to the University of Kentucky College of Arts and Sciences, their communities, and beyond cannot be overstated. Each and every one of our inductees have excelled in their respective fields, whether that be in academia, business, biomedical engineering, or even as a special agent in the United States government. But more importantly, they have been vital partners whose passions for the University of Kentucky and for our students has made and will continue to make a lasting impact. I want everyone watching to understand that this is more than just an event. It is more than just a ceremony. This is the highest honor that we can bestow. Tonight, we celebrate the achievements of 4 extraordinary alumni and 2 beloved retired faculty members. The College of Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame honors the intellectual progress of our college and university and gives tribute to the individuals who have achieved so much in their lives. Our inductees' life stories reflect the power, breadth, longevity, and purposefulness of a liberal arts education. Their lives have enriched our community and our nation. Their induction into our Hall of Fame is most well-deserved. So, having said that, I believe a toast is in order. Each of our honorees were sent a bottle of sparkling wine, but I think I'm going to go for something a little more local. Thank you, sir. So our inductees, I encourage you to open up and pop the bottle of your sparkling wine. Those of you at home, if you would like to open up some seltzer, soda water, whatever it is that you might like, or perhaps a little Kentucky bourbon. Raise a glass with me, if you would, to the University of Kentucky, the College of Arts and Sciences, and our inductees. Congratulations and well-deserved. Cheers. And now, it is my great pleasure to introduce you to our first inductee, Wida Papka Michel. Wida earned her bachelor's degree in political science in 1987. At UK, Wida was a member of the debate team, the honors program, and the first class of Gaines Fellows. In 1986, she became only the second woman to win a national debate championship. As a restaurateur, Ouita has made locally grown ingredients a priority of her cuisine since 2001, when she and her husband, Chris, opened their flagship restaurant, Holly Hill Inn in Midway, Kentucky. She has been a James Beard Foundation Award nominee numerous times, and her most recent nomination was a 2020 Outstanding Restaurateur. Ouita and her restaurants are regularly featured in media, such as the New York Times, Southern Living, Garden and Gun, Food Network, and the Cooking Channel. She was also a guest judge on season 16 of Bravo's Top Chef. Ouita Michel.
I grew up in Lexington. My father was a professor at the University of Kentucky Medical School. He taught gross anatomy and histology. And I really wanted to leave town as a senior in high school. I did not want to go to the University of Kentucky. But my mom and dad divorced when I was a senior in high school, and so for them, I needed to go to the University of Kentucky. I think tuition was $372 a semester at that time, and what a bargain. I had a great education there. My name is Ouita Michel, and I'm from Lexington, Kentucky. I debated for Henry Clay High School as a high school student and fell in love with the activity. And the saving grace for me about having to attend the University of Kentucky was that it had a fantastic debate program. The professors that I had in arts and sciences at that time, they formed really my foundation for how I see my world and myself and how I integrate the two things together. I was coached by Roger Solt, who was our debate coach, and he's my business partner today. And in 1986, we won the National Debate Championship. It was the first debate championship for the University of Kentucky, and I was only the second woman in history to win that debate championship. Through traveling on all these debate tournaments, I fell in love with restaurant culture because we would go to Chicago, we'd go to Greektown, we'd go to Boston for the Harvard tournament. And when I was 21, I had sort of I call it my midlife crisis. I had it at 21 and decided just to try cooking. Cooking in a restaurant, in a very weird way, is very similar to the intensity that you have in a highly competitive intercollegiate debate round. It's very fast. The sense of urgency is the same. The sense of timing is very similar. So I got hooked on that. At the end of 1989, I enrolled in the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. I met my husband, Chris, on the first day of school at the Culinary Institute of America. Yeah, I did. He showed up in a tweed jacket with leather patches on the elbow. Tall, handsome. When Chris and I returned to Lexington, originally it was just to plan our wedding. And when we got back here, there was something about it that had changed for me, and I didn't want to go back to New York. Well, one of the things I think that's so special about Holly Hill Inn is that it is a very personal space. My mother and father are both great artists. The inn is filled with both of their paintings and their work. My stepmom Gretchen, my dad Ray, my mom Pam, and my stepfather Bob really encouraged all of myself and my siblings to follow our dreams, and not just in a vacant way, but by showing up and really helping us see that we could achieve those things. Just before my 50th birthday, my mom passed away, and she was, really my anchor. She was a teenage mother herself, so the two of us were really very, very close. I think my opening so many restaurants was a response to my grief at losing her. My response to every stressful situation is always just to work. And it sees me through. I find business very, very, very creative. The idea of poetry and how poetry can translate to the visual and physical feeling of eating and cooking, that all came from Jane Vance. The depth of my thinking about food and local agriculture and the significance of food in our emotional and spiritual lives and hospitality, that all came from my experience at the University of Kentucky. A liberal arts education isn't about establishing a vocation. There's no reason for us to be training automatons. We need to be training people to critically think and feel and be in their lives and engage in their communities. Higher education has certain ideals for me that it should aspire to. And I learned that from Ray Betts. I learned that from Dan Rowland. I learned that from Jane Vance. I learned it from the best. I hope every freshman enters their college education aspiring to something that's not a job. Don't pigeonhole yourself too early. Let your mind explore these other ideas to truly find your passion, and then you'll never work a day in your life.
Now, as part of our ceremony, we proudly bestow upon Ouita Michel a medallion, which was mailed to each of our attendees before the ceremony tonight. On behalf of the faculty of the College of Arts and Sciences, I am pleased to induct Wida into the Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Dean Brady, and everyone at the University of Kentucky for nominating me and accepting me into the College of Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame. I'm truly humbled by this award. I'd like to thank my family, my husband, Chris Michael, and my daughter, Willa Michael, my parents, Dr. Raymond Papka, stepmother, Gretchen Papka, my mom, Pam Sexton, and my stepfather, Bob Sexton, who we miss every day. Also my brother and sister-in-law, Perry Papka and Janie Rice brother, and my sister and brother-in-law, Paige Walker and Travis Walker. Without the support of my family, I wouldn't have made it through 2020, so I deeply appreciate their love and support. And to all the friends and family who are joining us tonight, thank you so much for virtually partying with us for the Hall of Fame. My education at the University of Kentucky changed my life. And a big part of that was the University of Kentucky debate program. I'd like to say thank you to Dr. J.W. Patterson for his administration of that program, and to Roger Solt for being my debate coach. We did win the national debate tournament in 1986. The professors that I encountered in the College of Arts and Sciences, both in the honors program and in the Gaines program, were truly life-changing. Dr. Jane Vance, Dr. Jim Albacetti, Dr. Raymond Betts, and I would especially like to give a shout out to Dr. Herb Reed, who in a modern American political philosophy inspired me with the ideas that gave birth to a lot of the way that I run my business today. Without their mentorship and their scholarship, I wouldn't be the person who I am. So thank you to the college. Thank you, Dean Brady. I'm humbled and I'm honored.
Let's have another round of applause for Wida. Now our next inductee is the Honorable Winn Fleming Williams, who earned his bachelor's degree in sociology in 1971. Winn entered federal service upon graduating from the University of Kentucky. During his federal career, he served in numerous capacities as a special agent and special agent in charge for law enforcement organizations across the country. Winn also served on many anti-terrorism, counterterrorism, anti-gang, drug enforcement, and white-collar crime task forces. His senior management skills and services were also lent to the White House, the Office of Management and Budget, and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. After September 11th, he was recruited to assist in the creation of two new federal agencies, the Transportation Security Administration and the Department of Homeland Security. A fourth-generation Wildcat, Winn was a founding member of the Arts and Sciences Alumni Advisory Board and received the UK Alumni Association Distinguished Service Award in 2019. He lives outside of Greenville, South Carolina. Winn Williams.
So I'm a native Virginian and grew up in Northern Virginia, but my love for the Commonwealth and the university came from my father, who was a graduate. I have pictures of myself, photographs of myself as a boy with my UK t-shirts on and the like, so I pretty much knew in my heart that I wanted to go to UK. I'm Winn Fleming Williams. I'm a graduate of the College of Arts and Sciences, 1971, and I have no regrets. My father, up until the time I got married, and he told me this would happen, that he was my best friend. So he had a great influence on my life. Not ever steering me or guiding me to wanting to go to UK, but I don't think I disappointed him. He wasn't disappointed in the fact that I followed his footsteps in more ways than one, and following the legacy of my father and my grandfather and my great-grandfather, all who went to UK. When I went to the University of Kentucky, I had no idea whatsoever what I wanted to do with my life. But I wanted to have a well-rounded education that would serve me well no matter what my career would be. I did have a number of favorite classes and professors, one of which was Thomas D. Clark. My father taught with Dr. Clark, which was also a treat, so I got to visit with him about knowing my father and the like, which was a wonderful thing. Another one of my favorite professors was Dr. John Shepard. He taught complex organizations, and complex organizations helped me in my later life and my career. And then I guess the last person that had an influence was Dr. Ben Black, who was the Associate Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. To me, He personified what a professor should look like because he had the pipes and the tobacco and looked very erudite. Another one of the great things that have happened to me as a result of my association and graduation from the University of Kentucky is that out of the blue one day, I get a call from Laura Sutton, and she said, the dean of the college at that time, who was Howard Grotch, said he's thinking about forming an advisory board. Having said that, I was extended the invitation, and I saw the board become what it is today. My life after college, my career, I started off in the world of banking, and that just wasn't my cup of tea. And so I looked to the largest employer in the country, which was the federal government, and then found my way by application into becoming a federal law enforcement officer. And that's when I started on my horse, where I was promoted to inspector and then became a special agent in charge. I remember very vividly when I was a special agent in charge of our Chicago office, President Clinton came up with Secretary Cisneros. So I had the privilege of meeting the president and, of course, Secretary Cisneros. My career from there, when I was about getting toward the end of what the age limit was, I was recruited by the newly formed Department of Homeland Security right after 9/11. And during my time there, I can say that I wrote a lot of policy. I helped write and edit the IG Act as amended. I wrote the policy and the educational procedures for what you follow when you get on the plane. So you can attribute maybe some of the long lines at the airport to me and the team that I worked with. One of the benefits of my career at the Department of Homeland Security is that's where I met my wife. This was the first young lady that my mother liked, and that was very important to me. And my lovely wife, Winn, totally assimilated into the University of Kentucky. When she met me and she found out how impassioned I was about the university, she became a wildcat through and through. One of the greatest presents that she ever gave to me was one Christmas. I opened up this box and had a letter in it saying, "Dear Miss Woods, congratulations on becoming a life member of the University of Kentucky." It was a wonderful present for me. As I look back on my life and my career, I always wanted to contribute my time, my talent, my treasury to my church, my country, and my community. And I think I fulfilled all those, and as a consequence, along the way, I'm now being commended with this wonderful honor that I couldn't have ever thought that I would have received from the University of Kentucky, which is the school that I love. It's a wonderful university. It's a great university that's getting better all the time.
On behalf of the College of Arts and Sciences, I am pleased to induct Winn into the Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame.
Good evening, Dean Brady, distinguished faculty, honored alumni, and guests. Legend has it that if a UK student rubs the right foot of the first President James Patterson's statue before taking an examination, they will pass their test. But there's another known lesser tradition that if you rub the left foot of the statue, you will get into the college's Hall of Fame. There shall be no higher honor than to be elected into the Hall of Fame. That's how the preamble to this award reads. Let me repeat what most of you have heard me say before. I love the University of Kentucky. I would never have dreamed that I would be honored in this manner, and I also outlived some of the buildings on our beautiful campus. I am most grateful. During the course of your lifetime, you will meet some extraordinary people who will become touchstones in your life. Without their guidance, I would not be on this stage today. So now I would like to thank these most remarkable people. I'd like to start by thanking Dean Mark Kornblue, a great scholar, educator, and friend who nominated me for this award and was instrumental in me receiving it. I'd like to thank my parents, who, as my late wife Winn would say, are looking down from the larger life. I especially thank my father. My father was a graduate of and a UK professor. He taught me some of life's most fundamental but important lessons: right from wrong, that excellence should never be compromised by mediocrity, nor truth with expediency, that ability gets you to the top, but character keeps you there. And if your true excellence is your crop, you will harvest success. I owe so much thanks to my beautiful and late wife, Winn, an honorary wildcat herself. Winn taught me about unconditional love between man and a woman. I would also like to express my gratitude and love for my brother, Nick, who followed my footsteps with great success. A graduate of the university, Nick shares my unwavering passion for this wonderful college. Next, I would like to extend my appreciation to all my teachers and professors. I would especially like to thank the Honorable James G. Amato, who deserves a special mention. Judge Amato is a native Lexingtonian, a graduate of the UK Law School, and the city's former mayor. He laid the foundations for me in elementary school, teaching me to study hard, not to take any shortcuts, always vote for yourself, and teaching me the value of lasting friendships. I'd like to thank my friends viewing this ceremony. I thank you all for your support, loyalty, friendship, and what you have taught me. Like UK Hall of Fame running back and Super Bowl winner Mark Logan, or UK Hall of Fame tennis player Scott Foster, my doubles partner, we all need great teammates who support and work together with us to succeed in life's endeavors. No matter what route you chose, success in life is not a road you travel alone. It is a path shared with those amazing people who've helped shape your human experience along life's journey. Any successes that I've had were due in large part to the world-class education that I received at the University of Kentucky by the inspiring professional educators within our college. They personify all that is great about the university. They embody the spirit that is not afraid to work together. Their influence transcends formal education. They transform students, especially this one in particular, to see new horizons and become a part of this thing we proudly call the Big Blue Nation. They have had and continue to have an everlasting presence in my life. My faith, upbringing, and this university's teachings have all been instrumental in any successes that are attributed to me. Any of my achievements are shared by those persons, touchstones, if you will, in my life. Any failures that I've had are mine and mine alone. I will borrow my final words from our former great basketball coach, Adolph Rupp, the man in the brown suit. These words were later repeated by the immortal and golden voice of the Kentucky Wildcats announcer, Kaywood Ledford. Those words are these: for those who have traveled down that glory road with me, my eternal thanks. On, U of K.
Let's have another round of applause for Winn. Our next inductee is Dr. George C. Wright, who earned his bachelor's degree in history in 1972, his master's in sociology in 1974 from the University of Kentucky, and a Ph.D. in history from Duke University. George's illustrious career as a scholar and in administration has included stints at the University of Kentucky, Duke University, and the University of Texas at Arlington, where he served as Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost. He is the author of 3 books on the history of African Americans in Kentucky, including Life Behind a Veil, Blacks in Louisville, Kentucky, 1865 to 1930. In 2003, George became the 7th president of Prairie View A&M University, a historically black college and the second oldest public institution of higher education in the state of Texas. He served as president until 2017. That same year, George returned to Lexington as a visiting professor of history to help the University of Kentucky commemorate the 70th anniversary of its integration. Currently, He is a distinguished research professor and senior advisor to President Eli Capilouto. He is also serving as the interim vice president for the University Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. George is the recipient of many awards for his scholarship and service. In 2004, he was inducted into the University of Kentucky's Distinguished Hall of Alumni. George Wright.
History had always been my love. The reading of books, the stories of explorers, the stories of famous people and the like. And from that point, from reading a book, I always was asking the question, why? I would always try to understand. Race relations operate in this fashion. Why? It was more than one professor that said, you are a history major, right? And I'd say, yes, I'm going to be a high school history teacher. And they said, you can be a college professor. I'm up there saying, this is what? I can be a college professor? I'm George Carlton Wright. I'm a native of Lexington, Kentucky. I would attend the University of Kentucky for my bachelor's degree and master's degree, and that all happened because of the tragic assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. Being born in 1950 meant into a racially segregated society. There were many things that African Americans found that they were restricted from doing. In 1954 and then again in 1955, the United States Supreme Court made two different rulings in Brown versus the Board of Education. So the Kentucky highest court had said that African Americans have the right to attend the University of Kentucky. My undergraduate experience was a very rich one. I enrolled at UK in the fall of 1968. The thing that I'm proudest of is that I met my wife when I was 18 years old, but we started dating our freshman year at the University of Kentucky, and I asked her to marry me when we were 19, and we had been married 50 years. I had let everybody know that you do know I want to teach at the University of Kentucky. Well, they said to me, while it's no official rule, you would be better off than getting your doctorate somewhere else. As fate would have it, my last semester in the master's program, a visiting professor comes to UK. It is T. Harry Williams, a connection that helped me get a fellowship to Duke University. So I go to Duke for my Ph.D. As I was able to attend college and then graduate from college and then go to graduate school and then to become a professor and then to come back to Lexington as a professor at the University of Kentucky, it was very rewarding. One of the people who has most influenced me in my trek through higher education turned out to be the president of the University of Kentucky, Otis Singletary. He was always available for me. We talked about history, we talked about that, we talked about Texas and so forth. So I learned a lot from Singletary, and he reinforced to me that racial changes can occur because there are some people who are willing to make sure opportunities occur for others. I had always said that I wanted to be affiliated with a historically black school. It worked out for me to be named president of Prairie View A&M University in 2003. If you attend any college, doesn't matter, and go through the required curriculum successfully, a student would obtain a college degree. But that did not mean that he or she had obtained a college education. I was able to introduce there my strong view about the importance of Afro-American culture. We would really focus on various aspects of Black history, culture, contemporary thing, music, art, but make no mistake about it, it would be undergirded with reading and history. When I think about how I was assisted from attending the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of Kentucky, the most important thing I received was encouragement. I let my students know that if they don't know where else to turn, come and talk to me and I'll try to make sure I point them in the right direction. In my class, it is a safe environment. You can say whatever you want to say, but also why don't you hear what other people have to say, and that maybe you can learn something from them.
On behalf of the faculty of the College of Arts and Sciences, I am pleased to induct George into the Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame.
My journey with the University of Kentucky began in the fall semester 1968, more than 50 years ago. I arrived at the University of Kentucky as an avid reader, especially of history books. As a freshman at the University of Kentucky, I took courses in philosophy, political science, geography, sociology, and above all, history. In all of these courses, I learned how to write, I learned how to think critically about the issues. I also, by the time of my second year, I took courses that talked about race relations and the African American experience, opening up an entirely new area of study for me. By the time I was a junior at the University of Kentucky, I had decided to become a high school teacher, but a number of my professors convinced me to go to graduate school to obtain the master's degree and then the Ph.D. I will never regret having made that decision. My receiving this award is indeed a great honor to me. Also, I believe that in recognizing me, the College of Arts and Sciences is also recognizing all of the first African American students who enrolled in the college during the 20 years immediately after school integration. Finally, I would also like to acknowledge my wife, Valerie Ellison Wright. She started at the University of Kentucky also in 1968 in the School of Journalism. Also, very interestingly, Valerie has been inducted into her college's Hall of Fame as well. She and I walked every step together over the 50 years of my affiliation with the University of Kentucky, and so I'm very proud to be recognized by an institution that means so much to me. Thank you for this recognition.
A round of applause for Dr. George Wright. Our last alumni inductee is Dr. Bing Zhang, who earned his master's and doctoral degrees in statistics in 1991 and 1994, respectively. He also earned a master's in computer science from the University of Kentucky in 1993. Born in Jiangsu province in China, Bing arrived in the United States to study at UK in 1989. He began his professional career in Lexington as a biostatistician and then moved his young family to the Philadelphia area to begin work at AstraZeneca. He founded Macrostat, Inc., a statistics consulting firm that serves pharmaceutical companies, in 2002. He co-founded Macrostat China Clinical Research Limited in 2005. The company has since merged with TigerMed, the leading clinical contract research organization in China. Throughout his career, Bing has applied statistical expertise to the development of new drugs in various therapeutic areas and contributed to a number of new drugs approved for the treatment of hypertension, hyperlipidemia, asthma, psychiatric disorders, and pain. Bing has been an engaged and generous supporter of his alma mater and especially the Department of Statistics. In 2020, the University of Kentucky Board of Trustees named the department the Dr. Bing Zhang Department of Statistics in recognition of his philanthropy. He currently lives in Orlando. Dr. Bing Zhang.
When I was a student, the department is pretty small. We had 5 students. the graduate students in our class. But I think that's great because we got more attentions and the professors were available to help students anytime. My name is Bin Zhang. I was born in China and came to the United States in 1989. It's very exciting to come to Kentucky. The Kentucky is very beautiful. It has a beautiful bluegrass, horse farms, mountains, especially the nice people. When I was a young kid, the best course for me is mathematics. And the other things like the Chinese or literature, I was pretty bad at that. After I finished the high school, I took the national entrance exam and I was admitted to the University of Science and Technology of China to the special program for the gifted students under 15 years old. In 1988, I applied to several universities in the US. By July 1989, I got admissions from a few of them, but none of them gave me the financial aid. By the July 1989, I was still waiting for the response from the UK because the early responses from Dr. Wood was very positive. A week later, I called again, and Dr. Wood told me that I was admitted. I would be given a TA position. I was very excited for the great news. I came to the UK in mid-September. So when Dr. Wood see me in the office, he was very surprised because the semester is already started 2 weeks, and the TA position was already awarded to another student. It's very kind of her to arrange a cubicle for me first, and the next day she got a new TA position for me, so thankfully I was not sent back to China. My PhD dissertation advisor, Dr. David Allen, had the most important impact on my education and career. He was a very supportive mentor and taught me a lot about research. My major is graduate programs in the statistics, and I graduated in 1994 with a PhD degree. And I also got a master's degree in computer science in 1993. My wife Rachel and I were introduced by a mutual friend of ours. 2 years later, I went back to China and got married with Rachel. Yeah, she came to Lexington about 6 months later. Our first kid, Emily, was born in 1993, and the second kid, Brian, was born in 1996. Both of them is born in Lexington. At that time, I want to expand my experience, so I moved to Wilmington, Delaware, and worked at AstraZeneca, which is a very large pharmaceutical company. The decision to start a new company was a risk as well as a challenge. With the last push from being laid off, I started MacroStat in Delaware to provide a statistical consulting service to the pharmaceutical companies. After I started the consulting, it's actually much better than I expected because I worked full-time and I had the connections, the experience, and the reputation. I like the empowerment in work and the flexibility in life to operating a small consulting business. In 2005, a colleague of mine from AstraZeneca and I started MacroStat clinical research in China. MacroStat China grew rapidly and merged with TigerMed in 2010 and went public on the China Stock Exchange in 2012. In 2019, we moved to Orlando because the weather is very nice in the winter. In my spare time in Orlando, I usually golfing twice a week and fishing almost every day. All my career achievements was due to the statistical education at the UK. It's also important in Chinese and American culture to give back to the community. I got a lot of help from the professors, the alumni, and the friends from the UK. In my first internship, there are a lot of job interviews and business opportunities. So it's part of my obligation to give back to UK and help the research and education for the future students. It's a great honor to be named for the Department of Statistics. I hope the department will move to the next high level of excellence with the help of faculty members and alumni.
On behalf of the faculty of the College of Arts and Sciences, I am pleased to induct Bing into the Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame.
Good evening. Dean Brady, faculty, staff, students, alumni, and friends. Thank you all for joining the ceremony. It's a great honor to be inducted into the Hall of Fame of the College of Arts and Sciences at the UK. I'd like to thank Dr. David Allen for your mentoring and advice, and Dr. Honeywood for the opportunity to study in the UK. I would like to thank my professors, alumni, and friends for all of your help and support during graduate school and throughout my professional career. I'd also like to thank my wife Rachel, daughter Emily, and son Brian for your full support and love. I came to UK in 1989. Even though it has been more than 30 years, I still remember the days I made a character course to Dr. Wood, anxiously waited for responses, and finally received the offer for admission and a teaching assistantship. I have fond memories of the first day I came to the department on the 8th floor of the Patterson office tower, the days spent studying in classrooms, riding bicycles on campus, learning to drive, watching horse races, and gathering with friends. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to study at the UK and appreciate everyone's kindness. The high quality theoretical and practical education I received here built a solid foundation for my career and has led to a happy life. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to give back to UK and its students. I'm humbled because this honor is not only for me, but also for UK's statistics department and international students. I hope we all, as members of the UK family, work together to continue our support to the university and make it a dream school for students and receive excellent education and prepare for a successful career in life. I wish you all the best with good health, happiness, and prosperity. Thank you all for your time and have a nice evening.
A round of applause for Bing. Before we move on to our faculty inductees, I'd like to take a moment to remember two former inductees who have passed away since our last Hall of Fame ceremony. Dr. Paul G. Sears, Professor Emeritus of Chemistry, and Dr. Lewis J. Swift, Professor Emeritus of Modern and Classical Languages, Literatures, and Cultures, were esteemed members of our arts and sciences community. Both embodied the ideals of a liberal arts and sciences education. Their legacies live on through former colleagues and the many students they taught and nurtured. They are both dearly missed. Now we turn our celebration to our two faculty inductees. The first is Dr. Patricia Cooper in the Department of Gender and Women's Studies. Patty grew up in Blacksburg, Virginia, and her feminist consciousness and anti-war activism arose while she was an undergraduate student at Mary Washington College and Wittenberg University from 1967 to 1971. As a graduate student at the University of Maryland, Patty focused on women's, Black, and working class history and received an MA in American Studies in 1973 and a Ph.D. in U.S. History in 1981. In 1983, she joined the History and Politics Department of Drexel University in Philadelphia. She worked there with others to create processes for addressing sexual harassment and helped establish a women's studies program. Patty moved to the University of Kentucky in 1993 as director of the Women's Studies program. She helped launch the Women's Studies Graduate Certificate, served on the University of Kentucky's Commission on the Status of Women, and became the first chair when the Gender and Women's Studies program became a department in 2009. Dr. Patty Cooper.
I came here to be the director of the Women's Studies program, to bookend my career with being director of the first time we were really recognized in a way that showed that we were growing and we were important, we were valuable to the college. And then to be the first chair, it meant the world to me. My name is Patty Cooper, and I'm from Blacksburg, Virginia. Blacksburg in those days was a tiny little town, about 6,000 people. And there were lots of wooded areas, and we would just go off. Our parents were like, "Where are you going?" "Oh, we're just going past the golf course." So nature was a very big part of growing up in Blacksburg. Even though it was beautiful and I loved growing up there, it felt very confining to me in certain ways. I really wanted to leave after I graduated from high school. My parents were a big influence in my life. My dad was a geologist and headed the Department geology department at Virginia Tech, and my mom was a volunteer. My parents were also the first in their families to go to college. For those two to go to college was a very big deal. And of course, they made it clear from get-go that my brother and I would both go to college. So I went to Mary Washington College, which was the women's college of UVA. And in those days, UVA did not admit women. And I also wanted, after a while, something more, something else. I wanted to transfer, and my plan was to go to the University of North Carolina. I applied, and I was rejected. I called the university to ask why. And the reason was, we have a quota for out-of-state women. The last minute, I transferred to Wittenberg University in Springfield, Ohio. Those years were absolutely crucial for me in terms of becoming a feminist and an activist. I found out that all the history I'd been taught was wrong. By the time I got to graduate school, I knew I wanted to study women. My first job was at Drexel University in Philadelphia. Arts, humanities, and social sciences were on one floor of one building. And so it was very interdisciplinary, and we all learned about each other's research and helped each other. The person there that was so important to me and was my dearest friend was Ellen Rose. And she and I worked together to create a women's studies program. We were both feminists, and we wanted to see women's history being taught. Ellen and I decided we would go somewhere else. She got a job at UNLV, and I got a job at the University of Kentucky. I came here in 1993 to be the director of the Women's Studies program. Two people kind of ushered me around when I arrived, Ellen Rosenman and Kathy Kern. I felt like there was an energy there to make something more. And for years, some people would say, oh, it'd be so great if we could become a department. After a while, we realized that we wanted to expand. We wanted graduate students. We wanted a major. There was so much more out there, and we all agreed to go for department status and a major. When I got there, it was just in a little tiny room. Within a year, we had a suite of offices on the 9th floor. I mean, people, they were so ready for this. They wanted it. So it was exciting. My dad once gave me great advice. He said, when you go to college, don't worry about the grades. Don't even look at them, because we don't care. Find your passion. Find what you love, and figure out a way to do it. And it was great advice. It was great advice. Because when I went into history, people were saying, you've got to be kidding. You won't even be able to get a job. Why would you spend years getting a Ph.D.? And I said, because I love it. Because I'm part of a movement to rewrite history. And that's important to me.
On behalf of the faculty of the College of Arts and Sciences, I am pleased to induct Patty into the Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Dean Brady, and the whole team who put this evening together. I would also like to thank Dean Kornblum. I am so honored and humbled to be inducted into the college's Hall of Fame. Throughout my career, I focused on social inequities of class, race, and gender that I witnessed growing up in southwestern Virginia. But I soon became drawn to the new fields of women's history and women's studies. After teaching both for 10 years elsewhere, I came here in 1993 to direct the Women's Studies program. At that time, my colleagues and I were vocal about the chilly climate for women that we encountered on this campus. But I'm grateful to say that that landscape has changed dramatically. However, I do want to note that at this time in our history, we are acutely aware of our collective responsibility for justice, inclusion, and equity. My 2 years, 2 different stints of leading gender and women's studies, first as director and second as the chair of the new department, were perfect bookends for my 22 years here at UK. During that time, the program transformed into a department with a major, a graduate certificate, and a Ph.D. program. And of course, that was the work of so many people. I'd like to begin by thanking our students. You trusted us, you took our classes, you expressed such gratitude. I also want to thank my own students. You made teaching a joy. There are 4 women here tonight who were my first graduate students, and I want to thank them and my colleague, Kathy Kern. You enriched my life in ways I never could have imagined. I want to thank all the people who built GWS, and I can't name everyone, but I want to highlight Kate Black, Francie Chasson-Lopez, and Deborah Harley. Also, Joan Callahan, who led the program for 8 years and turned in the proposal for us to become a department with a major right before she retired. I'm also grateful to the deans, especially Dean Kornblue. You invested in GWS and made a difference. Thank you. And to my colleagues that I worked with in GWS, you're amazing. I want to thank Christina and Susan and Srimati, Carol, Jan, Ellen, Mel, Karen, and Charlie. You're brilliant scholars and teachers. I'm so grateful I got to work with you. And finally, I want to say to every person who ever contributed to GWS, what you did was important. It changed lives. It changed this college. And I am so grateful to have been part of it. I am also honored to be here tonight. Thank you.
Another round of applause for Patty. Our last, but definitely not least, inductee tonight is Dr. Ronald Eller in the Department of History. Ron is originally from southern West Virginia and has spent more than 40 years writing and teaching about the Appalachian region. He served for 15 years as director of the University of Kentucky's Appalachian Center, where he coordinated research and service programs on a wide range of Appalachian policy issues, including education, healthcare, economic development, civic leadership, and the environment. Ron holds a Ph.D. in American history from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and has published more than 60 articles and reports, but is most well known for his award-winning books. Miners, Mill Hands, and Mountaineers, The Industrialization of the Appalachian South, was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize in 1983 and won the 1982 Willis Weatherford Award in Appalachian Studies and the 1983 Thomas Wolfe Literary Award. His most recent book, Uneven Ground, Appalachia Since 1945, won a second Willis Weatherford Award in 2008, as well as the 2009 V.O. Key Award from the Southern Political Science Association. Ron has served as chair of the governor's Kentucky Appalachian Task Force, the first chair of the Kentucky Appalachian Commission, and as a member of the Sustainable Communities Task Force of President Clinton's Council on Sustainable Development. Ron Eller.
To broaden the base from which one views the world. Not just what's in it for me, but where do I fit into the larger picture of things? I think we can't survive as a democracy unless we're able to provide that kind of balance. My name is Ron Eller, and I'm originally from West Virginia. I think people might be surprised to learn that I am most comfortable walking in the woods or fishing on a stream or working with my hands, doing woodwork. I remember when I first went off to college, both of my grandfathers, one a coal miner, one a preacher, got me aside and said to me, "Now, Ronnie, you go off to college, but you be sure to read through them books." What they meant was for me not to change who I was. I was the first one in my family ever to go to college. My ancestors, for generations, were farmers and coal miners. I had 5 brothers and sisters, and my father was a barber who had a 6th grade education. So I had to finance my own way through college. At the end of my sophomore year, I wasn't going to have enough money to come back to school the following year. And I went in to see the college dean to inform him that my grandfather had gotten me a job in one of the local mines. And the dean said something to me that changed my life. He said, "Don't worry about this." He says, "We'll find a way to bring you back to school because we need to keep people like you on our campus to provide balance to the student body." As I was walking out of the dean's office, that phrase stuck in my head. What did he mean, provide balance to the student body? For the first time, I realized that they saw me in a different kind of way. Because I represented someone from Appalachia. I very much wanted to understand what had happened in the region and why the region had suffered such persistent poverty. The more I became involved in the war on poverty and asking questions about my own personal identity as an Appalachian person, the more I began to realize the relationship between knowledge and information and public policy. I made the decision that I needed to go on to graduate school to write the history of the region based upon research and evidence. Finished my Ph.D. and took my first job at a small mountain college in Western North Carolina, Mars Hill College, where I wrote my first book, Miners, Mill Hands, and Mountaineers. That's where I first began to come in contact with a number of scholars from the University of Kentucky, like Tom Ford in sociology, John Stevenson in sociology. The University of Kentucky was the leading research institute. It had the capacity to have an impact upon public policy in the region. It also had the capacity to produce graduate students who could become faculty at the colleges and universities in the region. And all of those things attracted me to UK. I came to UK in 1985 with a joint appointment in the history department as professor of history and as director of the UK Appalachian Center. My own experiences had been that education was a transformative thing that could empower not only individuals, but could empower communities. And so I was determined that the Appalachian Center would be used to provide those kinds of services and benefits to communities in Eastern Kentucky. We had a broad range of faculty who were interested in applying their knowledge and understanding to the region, who had themselves grown up in the mountains. We did programs in educational outreach, in healthcare, economic development, community development. Being an historian had an almost presentist goal for me. I wasn't interested in history just to write history. I was interested in what I could learn from history that we could apply in the present in developing public policies. In the 1960s, many Americans saw Appalachia as this other place. It was part of the other America. Most of us who both come from the region and studied the region over time now recognize that Appalachia is not the other America, and that the issues that Appalachian people face are fundamentally and deeply American issues, that in fact Appalachia is in many respects a mirror to the rest of American society. And if we could come to understand that, we could come to appreciate each other much more.
On behalf of the faculty of the College of Arts and Sciences, I am pleased to induct Ron into the Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Dean Brady. I appreciate your leadership of the college in what are difficult times for higher education. I would also like to express my appreciation to former Dean Mark Kornblue, to my colleagues in the History Department and Appalachian Studies programs, and to my many friends and colleagues throughout the College of Arts and Sciences for their kindness and for what they have taught me over the years. I must be honest, however, and admit that awards make me uncomfortable. I was raised in a mountain family that cautioned me not to get above my raising when I went off to college. But I considered myself fortunate to go to college and have spent the last 50 years trying to contribute to the improvement of life for my people and my place. At the heart of my work has been the effort to challenge myths about Appalachia with facts. Facts about the region's history and region's culture, and to suggest implications for the larger society. Distinguishing between myth and fact, it seems to me, is at the core of a liberal arts education and central to the mission of the College of Arts and Sciences. Recognizing the contributions of all communities is critical to our democracy, and acknowledging one's sense of place provides a bridge to our universal human experience. Valuing diversity and sense of place provides a platform that gives us the perspective and confidence to pursue larger ideas and to see the world beyond ourselves. That's a mission which our country desperately needs at this time. During my 43 years of teaching, almost 30 of which were at UK, I learned also that knowledge wasn't something that you acquired on your own, but rather was a collective endeavor that required the interaction with others, including those who have gone before us. I was fortunate to teach at an institution where colleagues from a wide spectrum of disciplines and perspectives broadened my research, challenged my ideas, and pushed me to think in new ways. I came to UK in 1984 to become part of a multidisciplinary community of scholars who had long channeled the resources of the university to serve the needs of Central Appalachia. As early as the 1940s, UK was a national leader in research and service to Appalachia, led by faculty in the College of Arts and Sciences. These UK faculty and their graduate students played major roles in the evolution of the War on Poverty and in the creation of the discipline of Appalachian Studies. Almost a quarter of the student body at the university is from Appalachia, and UK produces more MAs and Ph.Ds with research interests in Appalachia than any other institution of higher education in the country. That community of scholars, now led by a new generation of scholars, continues the work of confronting persistent myths about Appalachia and applying lessons from the region to the rest of the nation. In the process, directing the university's intellectual resources to the needs of underserved people. It has been an honor to be part of that community and to know that I have contributed to that mission without perhaps getting above my raising. Again, I thank you very much.
A round of applause for Ron. Congratulations once again to all of our inductees. You honor us with your achievements and contributions. This concludes our live broadcast of the 2020 College of Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame ceremony. But the celebrations will continue. Please join us for the virtual receptions and Zoom rooms for each of tonight's inductees. You can find the links in the description for the premiere on YouTube, and we will show them here at the end of this broadcast. Thank you for tuning in and celebrating with us this evening. We look forward to welcoming you back to campus this fall. Thank you, and good night.